In the heart of small-town America, a teenage girl's smile masked a neighbor's deadly obsession. When Lily Thompson vanished, Oak Ridge's innocence died with her screams. A childhood friend turned predator, a community's trust shattered. Discover the dark truth behind the picket fences and shadows of Oak Ridge. Hello everyone. Before we start today's case, I want to ask you to subscribe to the channel. Your subscription is very important to us, so please subscribe and share your opinion about this case in the comments below. All of this because the small town of Oak Ridge had always been a peaceful place where neighbors knew each other by name and children played freely in the streets. At the heart of this close-knit community was the Thompson family, John, his wife Emily, and their teenage daughter Lily. The Thompsons were well respected in Oak Ridge, known for their kindness and active involvement in local affairs. Living next door to the Thompsons was the Miller family, David, his wife Sarah, and their son Michael. The Millers had moved to Oak Ridge 5 years ago, quickly becoming part of the community fabric. Michael, now 19, had grown up alongside Lily, and the two families had formed a close bond over the years. Lily Thompson, at 17, was the epitome of small-town charm. With her bright smile and cheerful demeanor, she seemed to embody the innocence and vitality of youth. Friends and neighbors saw her as a beacon of positivity, always ready with a kind word or a helping hand. Her presence in Oak Ridge was like a ray of sunshine, brightening the lives of all who knew her. However, beneath the surface of this idyllic scene, a darkness was brewing that would soon shatter the tranquility of Oak Ridge forever. It began subtly at first. Michael Miller, who had always been a polite and somewhat shy young man, started to change. His behavior became increasingly erratic, and he developed an unhealthy obsession with Lily. What had once been a childhood friendship began to morph into something more sinister in Michael's mind. At first, the changes were barely noticeable. Michael would find reasons to be wherever Lily was, often appearing unexpectedly at her school events or favorite hangout spots. He began to message her constantly, his texts becoming more frequent and intense. Lily, in her inherent kindness, initially brushed off these changes as Michael simply going through a phase or perhaps dealing with personal issues. As the weeks passed, Michael's obsession grew stronger. He started to keep a detailed log of Lily's daily routines, noting her comings and goings with an unsettling precision. He would sit for hours in his room, staring at photos of Lily that he had secretly taken. His walls became a shrine to her, covered with candid shots and mementos he had collected without her knowledge. Sarah Miller, Michael's mother, began to notice changes in her son. He became withdrawn at home, spending more time alone in his room. When she tried to talk to him about it, Michael would become defensive and angry. Sarah, worried about her son but unsure of how to help, confided in Emily Thompson during one of their regular coffee mornings. "I'm just so worried about Michael," Sarah confessed, her hands wrapped tightly around her coffee mug. "He's not himself lately. He barely talks to us, and when he does, he seems different. Angry almost." Emily, always the supportive friend, tried to reassure her. "Teenagers go through phases, Sarah. I'm sure it's nothing to worry about. Have you tried talking to him about what's bothering him?" Sarah nodded, her eyes filled with concern. "I've tried, but he just shuts down. It's like he's a completely different person." Little did either of them know that the changes in Michael were far more serious than typical teenage angst. His obsession with Lily was spiraling out of control, pushing him towards a dark path that would soon lead to tragedy. As summer approached, the tension in Oak Ridge began to rise. Michael's behavior became more erratic and unpredictable. He started to follow Lily more openly, often appearing at places where she was hanging out with her friends. His presence became a constant source of discomfort for Lily, who tried to maintain her friendly demeanor, despite her growing unease. One warm evening in June, Lily was walking home from a study session at the local library. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the quiet streets of Oak Ridge. As she turned onto her street, she noticed Michael standing under a streetlight, his gaze fixed intently on her. "Hey, Michael," Lily called out, trying to keep her voice steady. "What are you doing out here?" Michael's response was unnervingly calm. "I was waiting for you, Lily. I always wait for you." The hair on the back of Lily's neck stood up. She quickened her pace, her heart racing as she approached her house. "Well, I'm heading home now. Have a good night, Michael." As she reached for her front door, Michael suddenly appeared behind her. "Lily, wait. I need to talk to you. It's important." Lily hesitated, her hand on the doorknob. Years of friendship and neighborly politeness warred with her instinct to flee. "Michael, it's late. Can't this wait until tomorrow?" Michael's eyes darkened. "No, it can't wait. You need to understand. You need to see how much you mean to me." Before Lily could react, Michael grabbed her arm, his grip painfully tight. "You're coming with me. I have something to show you." Lily's scream pierced the quiet evening air, shattering the peace of Oak Ridge and marking the beginning of a nightmare that would forever change the small town. Inside the Thompson house, John and Emily were settling in for a quiet evening when they heard their daughter's terrified cry. John leapt from his chair, rushing to the front door. By the time he flung it open, the street was empty, with no sign of Lily or her attacker. "Lily!" John shouted, his voice echoing through the neighborhood. "Lily, where are you?" Emily, panic rising in her throat, frantically dialed 911. As she reported her daughter's disappearance, neighbors began to emerge from their homes, drawn by the commotion. Among them were David and Sarah Miller, who hurried over to the Thompsons' house. "What's happening?" David asked, his face etched with concern. "We heard screaming." John, his voice shaking, explained the situation. "It's Lily. Someone's taken her. Did you see anything?" Sarah's face paled as a terrible thought crossed her mind. "Michael? Has anyone seen Michael?" As the reality of the situation began to sink in, the once peaceful town of Oak Ridge was plunged into chaos. Police sirens wailed in the distance as officers raced to the scene. Neighbors gathered in small groups, their voices a mix of concern and speculation. Detective Laura Chen arrived at the Thompson residence within minutes of the 911 call. As she stepped out of her car, she could feel the tension in the air. This quiet town, unused to such violence, was already showing signs of unraveling. "Mr. and Mrs. Thompson?" Detective Chen approached the distraught couple. "I'm Detective Laura Chen. Can you tell me exactly what happened?" As John and Emily recounted the events of the evening, Detective Chen's trained eye surveyed the scene. She noticed Sarah Miller standing slightly apart from the group, her face a mask of shock and disbelief. "Mrs. Miller," Detective Chen called out, "I understand your son Michael might have been involved. When was the last time you saw him?" Sarah's voice trembled as she spoke. He was in his room earlier. But now, I don't know where he is. Oh God, what's happening?" Detective Chen's instincts told her that time was of the essence. She quickly organized search parties, assigning officers to canvass the neighborhood and the surrounding areas. As flashlights began to sweep across yards and wooded areas, Chen turned her attention to gathering more information. "Has Lily had any problems recently? Any conflicts or unusual behavior?" she asked the Thompsons. Emily shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "No, nothing. Lily's always been such a good girl. Everyone loves her." John, his arm around his wife, added, "But Michael, he's been acting strangely lately, following Lily around, always showing up wherever she was." This information set off alarm bells in Detective Chen's mind. She had seen cases like this before, where seemingly normal individuals developed dangerous obsessions. Every minute that passed could be crucial in finding Lily alive. As the night wore on, the search intensified. Police dogs were brought in to track Lily's scent, while helicopters with thermal imaging cameras scanned the area from above. The once quiet streets of Oak Ridge were now a flurry of activity, with worried residents joining the search efforts. Detective Chen set up a command center in the Thompsons' living room. Maps were spread out on tables marked with search grids and potential locations where Michael might have taken Lily. Phone records were being analyzed, and Michael's room was being thoroughly searched for any clues. As dawn broke over Oak Ridge, the town held its collective breath. The idyllic community had been shattered, replaced by a landscape of fear and suspicion. Everyone wondered, where was Lily Thompson? And what dark secrets had been hiding behind the facade of small-town life all along? The investigation was just beginning, but Detective Chen knew that every passing moment decreased the chances of finding Lily alive. The race against time had begun, and the outcome would forever change the face of Oak Ridge. As the sun rose over Oak Ridge, casting a deceptively peaceful glow over the town, the search for Lily Thompson entered its critical phase. Detective Laura Chen, having worked through the night, gathered her team for a briefing. The command center in the Thompsons' living room was a hive of activity, with officers and volunteers coming and going, reporting on their search efforts. "All right, listen up," Chen addressed the group, her voice firm despite her exhaustion. "We're now 12 hours into the search for Lily Thompson. Every minute counts. We've got choppers in the air, K-9 units on the ground, and officers canvassing a 20-mile radius. But we need more." She turned to a map of Oak Ridge and its surrounding areas, which was now covered in markings and notes. "We've identified several areas of interest based on Michael Miller's known habits and the terrain. I want teams focusing on these abandoned buildings here." She pointed to several locations. "And these wooded areas. Michael knows this town well, so think like a local. Where would you go if you didn't want to be found?" As the teams dispersed to continue their search, Chen focused on the psychological aspect of the case. She knew that understanding Michael's mindset was crucial to predicting his actions. "I need everything we can get on Michael Miller," she instructed one of her deputies. "School records, medical history, social media activity, anything that might give us insight into his state of mind." Meanwhile, in a dilapidated cabin deep in the woods outside Oak Ridge, Lily Thompson was living a nightmare. She had regained consciousness to find herself bound and gagged, lying on a dirty mattress in a dimly lit room. The air was musty, filled with the scent of decay and neglect. Through a grimy window, she could see dense forest stretching in every direction. Michael paced the small cabin, muttering to himself. His eyes, when they fell on Lily, were filled with a mixture of adoration and madness that chilled her to the core. "You're awake," he said, his voice unnaturally calm. "Good. I was worried I might have hurt you. I didn't mean to, Lily. I needed you to understand, to see how perfect we are together." Lily tried to speak through her gag, her eyes wide with fear and confusion. Michael approached her, kneeling beside the mattress. He reached out to stroke her hair, and Lily flinched away. "Shh, it's okay," Michael soothed, as if comforting a frightened animal. "I know you're scared now, but you'll see. This is how it's meant to be. Just you and me away from everyone else. They don't understand our love, Lily, but they will." As Michael continued his delusional monologue, Lily's mind raced. She thought of her parents, imagining their fear and desperation. She thought of her friends, of the life she had been ripped away from. And she thought of Michael, the boy she had known since childhood, now transformed into this terrifying stranger. Back in Oak Ridge, the Thompsons clung to each other, surrounded by friends and neighbors who had gathered to offer support. John Thompson, his face haggard from a sleepless night, addressed the crowd of volunteers. "I want to thank you all for your help," he said, his voice breaking. "Lily, she's the light of our lives. We need to bring her home. Please, if you know anything, if you've seen anything, no matter how small it might seem, tell the police. Help us find our daughter." Emily Thompson, silent tears streaming down her face, clutched a photo of Lily to her chest. The image showed a smiling, vibrant girl, a stark contrast to the fear and uncertainty that now surrounded her fate. As the day wore on, Detective Chen received a breakthrough. One of Michael's old teachers had come forward with crucial information. "Detective," the teacher said, her voice trembling. "I should have said something sooner. Michael, he wrote some disturbing things in his journal for my creative writing class. I thought it was just fiction, but now..." Chen leaned forward, her interest piqued. "What kind of disturbing things, Mrs. Lawson?" The teacher hesitated before continuing. "He wrote about a girl. He never named her, But the descriptions... It had to be Lily. He wrote about taking her away, about how they were destined to be together. I confronted him about it, but he laughed it off, said it was just a story. I should have known. This information gave Chen a new avenue to explore. She immediately ordered a thorough search of Michael's room, focusing on any hidden journals or writings that might provide clues to his current location. As the search teams combed through the woods and abandoned properties around Oak Ridge, tension in the town continued to rise. Rumors and speculation spread like wildfire. Some blamed the Millers for not seeing the signs, while others questioned how such a thing could happen in their close-knit community. Sarah Miller, overwhelmed by guilt and fear, sat in her living room, surrounded by concerned neighbors. "I don't understand," she sobbed. "Michael was always such a good boy. How could he do this? Where did we go wrong?" David Miller, his face a mask of shock and disbelief, could offer no comfort. He had spent the night helping with the search, unable to reconcile the son he thought he knew with the person who had abducted Lily. As the sun began to set on the second day of Lily's disappearance, Detective Chen received a call that would change the course of the investigation. A hiker, out for an evening walk, had stumbled upon something suspicious deep in the woods. "Detective?" The breathless voice came over the phone. "I think I've found something. There's an old cabin out here, and I saw movement inside. I think I heard a girl screaming." Chen's heart raced as she quickly mobilized her team. "Send me the exact coordinates," she instructed the hiker. "And whatever you do not approach the cabin. We're on our way." As police vehicles raced towards the location, lights flashing and sirens wailing, Chen knew that the next few hours would be critical. The fate of Lily Thompson and the future of Oak Ridge hung in the balance. In the cabin, unaware of the approaching rescue, Michael's behavior was becoming increasingly erratic. He alternated between declarations of love and fits of rage, leaving Lily terrified and confused. As night fell, she clung to the hope that someone would find her, that this nightmare would soon be over. Little did she know that her ordeal was about to reach its climax, in a confrontation that would leave an indelible mark on everyone involved. As police vehicles raced through the darkening woods, their sirens silenced to maintain the element of surprise, Detective Laura Chen briefed her team on the approaching confrontation. The atmosphere in the lead vehicle was tense, each officer acutely aware of the high stakes involved. "Remember," Chen emphasized, her voice steady, despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins, "our primary objective is to secure Lily Thompson's safety. Michael Miller is to be considered armed and dangerous. We don't know his mental state, so approach with extreme caution." As they neared the coordinates provided by the hiker, Chen ordered the vehicles to stop. The rest of the approach would be on foot to minimize the chance of alerting Michael to their presence. The team moved silently through the dense undergrowth, guided by the faint glow of light emanating from the cabin windows. Inside the cabin, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. Michael, his mind clouded by delusion and paranoia, had become increasingly agitated. He paced the small space, muttering incoherently, occasionally stopping to stare at Lily with a mixture of adoration and anger. Lily, still bound and gagged, watched Michael with growing terror. She had spent the past 2 days trying to reason with him, to appeal to the boy she once knew, but to no avail. Now, as she observed his erratic behavior, she feared that her time was running out. Suddenly, Michael froze, his head cocked to one side as if listening. In the distance, barely audible, came the sound of twigs snapping under careful footsteps. His eyes widened with a mix of fear and rage. "They're here," he hissed, his voice barely above a whisper. "They've come to take you away from me, Lily. But I won't let them. I won't." He rushed to Lily's side, roughly pulling her to her feet. Lily's heart raced as Michael dragged her towards the back of the cabin, his grip painfully tight on her arm. "We have to go," Michael said urgently, his eyes wild with panic. "They can't separate us. I won't let them." Outside, Detective Chen and her team had surrounded the cabin. Through the grimy windows, they could see movement inside. Chen raised her hand, signaling her team to hold their positions. She knew that rushing in could provoke Michael into doing something desperate. "Michael Miller," Chen called out, her voice firm and authoritative. "This is Detective Laura Chen with the Oak Ridge Police Department. We have the cabin surrounded. Come out with your hands up and release Lily Thompson." Inside, Michael froze at the sound of Chen's voice. His grip on Lily tightened, causing her to whimper in pain through her gag. For a moment, indecision flickered across his face, then his expression hardened with resolve. "No!" he shouted back. "You don't understand. Lily and I belong together. We're leaving, and you can't stop us." Chen exchanged a worried glance with her second-in-command. The situation was escalating quickly, and she knew they were running out of time. She needed to keep Michael talking to prevent him from doing anything rash. "Michael, listen to me," Chen said, trying to inject calm into her voice. "I know you care about Lily, but this isn't the way to show it. You're scaring her, Michael. Is that what you want?" There was a pause, and for a moment, Chen thought she might be getting through to him. But then Michael's voice came again, filled with a manic energy that sent chills down her spine. "You're lying. Lily loves me. She understands me like no one else does. We're meant to be together, and I'll prove it to all of you." Inside the cabin, Michael began to drag Lily towards the back door. Lily struggled against him, trying to break free, but his grip was like iron. As they neared the exit, Michael suddenly stopped and turned to face her. "Lily," he said, his voice suddenly soft, almost pleading. "You know I love you, right? You know this is for us?" Lily, her eyes wide with fear, shook her head vehemently. She tried to speak through her gag, to reason with him one last time, but Michael's face darkened at her response. "No," he muttered, more to himself than to her. "No, you're confused. They've turned you against me. But I'll show you. I'll prove my love to you." With that, he reached into his pocket and pulled out a knife. The blade glinted in the dim light of the cabin, and Lily felt her blood run cold. Outside, one of Chen's officers spotted the knife through the window. "He's armed!" the officer shouted, raising his weapon. Chen's heart raced. The situation had just become far more dangerous. She knew she had to act fast to prevent a tragedy. "All units, prepare to move in," she ordered into her radio. "Remember, our priority is Lily's safety. Use extreme caution." As the police team moved into position, tension hung heavy in the air. The peaceful town of Oak Ridge held its collective breath, unaware that the events unfolding in this remote cabin would forever change the fabric of their community. Inside, Michael stood at the threshold of the back door, one arm tightly around Lily, the other holding the knife. His eyes darted frantically between Lily and the door, his mind racing with desperate plans. "We're going to leave now, Lily," he said, his voice trembling. "Just you and me, like it's supposed to be. And if they try to stop us, if they try to separate us..." He left the threat unfinished, but the implication was clear. Lily's eyes filled with tears as she realized the full extent of the danger she was in. In that moment, she understood that the Michael she had known was gone, replaced by someone she no longer recognized. As Michael began to open the back door, the sound of splintering wood filled the air. The front door of the cabin burst open and Detective Chen led her team inside, weapons drawn. "Drop the knife, Michael," Chen shouted, her gun trained on him. "It's over. Let Lily go." Time seemed to stand still as Michael, Lily, and the police faced each other in the cramped confines of the cabin. The next few seconds would determine not just Lily's fate, but the future of Oak Ridge itself. In that moment of high tension, with weapons drawn and lives hanging in the balance, the true cost of obsession and the fragility of small-town innocence were laid bare. The peaceful facade of Oak Ridge had been shattered, revealing the dark currents that can run beneath even the most tranquil surfaces. As Detective Chen faced off against Michael, the air thick with tension and the potential for violence, the story of Lily Thompson's abduction reached its climactic moment. The outcome of this confrontation would leave an indelible mark on everyone involved, forever changing the landscape of trust and security in the once idyllic town of Oak Ridge. The standoff in the cabin stretched on for what felt like an eternity, though in reality it was only a matter of seconds. Michael's eyes darted frantically between Detective Chen, her team, and Lily. His grip on the knife tightened, causing Lily to whimper in fear. "Michael," Chen said, her voice calm but firm. "Think about what you're doing. This isn't you. The Michael that Lily knew, that this town knew, wouldn't want to hurt her. Put the knife down, and we can talk about this." For a brief moment, uncertainty flickered across Michael's face. His hand trembled, and Chen saw a glimmer of the confused, troubled young man beneath the facade of the dangerous kidnapper. But then, as quickly as it had appeared, the moment of clarity vanished. Michael's expression hardened, his eyes filling with a manic determination. "No!" he shouted, pressing the knife closer to Lily's throat. "You're trying to trick me. Lily and I are meant to be together. If I can't have her, no one can." In that instant, Chen knew that negotiations had failed. Michael was too far gone, lost in his delusions. She had to act fast to save Lily's life. With a subtle hand signal, Chen communicated her plan to her team. They needed to create a distraction, something to divert Michael's attention just long enough for them to disarm him. One of the officers, understanding Chen's intent, deliberately stepped on a creaky floorboard. The sudden noise caused Michael to flinch, his eyes darting towards the source of the sound. In that split second of distraction, Chen made her move. She lunged forward, tackling Michael with all her strength. The impact sent all three of them, Chen, Michael, and Lily, crashing to the floor. In the chaos that followed, the knife clattered to the ground. Michael, howling with rage and desperation, tried to reach for it, but Chen's team was faster. Two officers pinned Michael down while another quickly secured the weapon. Chen scrambled to her feet and rushed to Lily's side. The young girl was shaking uncontrollably, tears streaming down her face. Chen gently removed the gag and began to untie her bonds. "It's okay, Lily," Chen soothed, her voice soft and reassuring. "You're safe now, it's over." As Chen helped Lily to her feet, the reality of the situation began to sink in. Michael, now handcuffed and restrained, stared at Lily with a mixture of confusion and despair. "Lily," he called out, his voice breaking. "Lily, please. I love you. Don't let them take me away." Lily, supported by Chen, looked at Michael for a long moment. In her eyes, Chen could see a complex mix of emotions: fear, relief, and a profound sadness for the friend she had lost. Finally, Lily spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. "Michael, I'm sorry, but this isn't love. What you did, it's not okay. I hope you get help, but I can't be the one to give it to you." With those words, the last vestiges of Michael's delusion seemed to crumble. He sagged in the officer's grip, the fight leaving him entirely. As Chen led Lily out of the cabin, they were met by the flashing lights of police cars and ambulances. The woods, so recently a place of fear and hiding, now buzzed with activity and the promise of safety. Paramedics rushed forward to attend to Lily, wrapping her in a blanket and beginning to assess her condition. In the distance, Chen could see two familiar figures rushing towards them, John and Emily Thompson, their faces a mixture of fear and desperate hope. "Lily!" Emily cried out, breaking into a run as she spotted her daughter. The reunion that followed was both heart-wrenching and beautiful. Lily collapsed into her parents' arms, all three of them sobbing with relief and joy. Chen watched the scene unfold, feeling a profound sense of both accomplishment and sadness. As Michael was led away to a waiting police car, Chen couldn't help but reflect on the events that had led to this moment. How had a bright, seemingly well-adjusted young man like Michael become capable of such actions? What signs had been missed? What help had he needed but not received? The case was solved. Lily was safe. But Chen knew that the repercussions of this event would be felt in Oak Ridge for years to come. The town's sense of security had been shattered, replaced by a new awareness of the darkness that can lurk beneath even the most placid surfaces. As dawn broke over Oak Ridge, casting a pale light over the scene, Chen knew that this was both an ending and a beginning. The immediate crisis was over, But the healing process, for Lily, for the Millers, for the entire town, was just beginning. In the days and weeks that followed, Oak Ridge struggled to come to terms with what had happened. The story of Lily's abduction and rescue made national news, bringing unwanted attention to the once quiet town. Journalists descended on Oak Ridge, eager to uncover every detail of the shocking event. Lily Thompson, reunited with her family, began the long process of healing. With the support of her parents and professional counselors, she slowly started to rebuild her sense of safety and trust. But the ordeal had left its mark. Lily was no longer the carefree teenager she had once been. The Millers, devastated by their son's actions, became virtual recluses. Sarah Miller, in particular, was consumed by guilt, constantly questioning how she could have missed the signs of Michael's deteriorating mental state. The once friendly neighborhood now viewed them with a mix of pity and suspicion. Michael Miller, charged with kidnapping and attempted murder, awaited trial. Psychiatric evaluations revealed a complex history of untreated mental health issues, including obsessive tendencies and delusional thinking. The question of how much responsibility he bore for his actions became a topic of heated debate in Oak Ridge and beyond. Detective Laura Chen, hailed as a hero for her role in rescuing Lily, found herself grappling with the aftermath of the case. She had seen firsthand how quickly a peaceful community could be torn apart, and the experience left her with a renewed determination to address the underlying issues that could lead to such tragedies. In response to the incident, Oak Ridge implemented new community outreach programs focused on mental health awareness and early intervention. Schools introduced counseling services and workshops on recognizing signs of emotional distress in peers. The town, determined to heal and prevent future tragedies, rallied around these initiatives. As months passed, life in Oak Ridge slowly began to return to a semblance of normalcy. But beneath the surface, things had irrevocably changed. Neighbors viewed each other with a new wariness, and parents kept a closer eye on their children. The innocence that had once defined Oak Ridge had been lost, replaced by a more complex, nuanced understanding of human nature. Lily Thompson, showing remarkable resilience, eventually returned to school. Though the experience had changed her, it had also revealed an inner strength she didn't know she possessed. She became an advocate for mental health awareness and victim support, turning her traumatic experience into a force for positive change. The trial of Michael Miller became a focal point for discussions about mental health, responsibility, and the nature of obsession. As details of his troubled mind came to light, the town grappled with complex questions of culpability and compassion. In the end, Michael was found guilty but mentally ill, sentenced to a long term in a psychiatric facility rather than a traditional prison. The verdict brought a measure of closure to the Thompson family and to Oak Ridge as a whole, but it also left many questions unanswered. As the first anniversary of Lily's abduction approached, Oak Ridge held a community gathering to reflect on the events of the past year and to look towards the future. Detective Chen, invited to speak at the event, addressed the assembled crowd. "What happened to Lily Thompson shook our community to its core," she began. "It forced us to confront uncomfortable truths about the world we live in, even in a place as seemingly idyllic as Oak Ridge. But it also showed us the strength of our community, our capacity for resilience and growth." She paused, looking out over the faces of the townspeople she had come to know so well over the past year. "We cannot change what happened," she continued, "but we can learn from it. We can work to create a community where everyone feels seen, heard, and supported, where signs of trouble are recognized early and help is readily available, where tragedy brings us together rather than tearing us apart." As Chen finished her speech, a sense of cautious optimism filled the air. The people of Oak Ridge had been through a harrowing ordeal, but they had emerged stronger, more aware, and more united. The story of Lily Thompson and Michael Miller would always be a part of Oak Ridge's history, a reminder of the darkness that can exist even in the brightest of places. But it would also serve as a catalyst for change, a turning point that led to a more compassionate, vigilant, and resilient community. As the gathering dispersed, people lingering to talk and reflect, The setting sun cast a warm glow over Oak Ridge. The town had been forever changed, its innocence lost but replaced by a deeper understanding of the complexities of human nature and the importance of community. The tragedy that had once threatened to tear Oak Ridge apart had, in the end, brought it closer together. And while the scars of that fateful summer would never fully heal, they had faded into a reminder of the town's strength, resilience, and unwavering spirit.